Well, welcome back to our cosy little interview studio. And with me is Professor Manfred Kets de Vries. And I should point out that's Vries with a V, not an F. I apologize for the error. But
in Dutch, the V and the F is pronounced the same way.
It's an understandable mistake.
Yes,
we're not going to get too excited about it. And you get a sense of what a sensible and a civilized gentleman he is. But Manfred was telling me that the word prolific does not even begin to describe his output. 60 titles on the bookshelf now with his name on, and that's on top of a long career teaching at INSEAD and lecturing and coaching around the world. And it's great to have you with us in Vienna, Manfred. Thank you very much for being with us.
It's a pleasure.
Leadership is the permanent topic, and we look at the world, we pick up a newspaper or turn on the TV, and we see quite troubling things about leaders. And I think a lot of people wonder, why do we get some of these leaders? Who are these people who push to the top? What's different about them, and why do they display these interesting characteristics that they sometimes do?
Now, let me start by saying that leadership is really a team sport. Because we have this fantasy about a great leader there, which is still somewhat the case. But, it's a team sport, and leaders coming off. I've looked at leaders over the last 35 years. I ran a CEO seminar for so many years. But there are a number of filters. So you have first your personality. You are then you have the industry, and then you have the culture. So be running a steel factory in the Caucasus necessitate a little bit of a different leadership style than be the managing partner of McKinsey. I had them both actually at one point in time.
And you knew which one was which.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different.
Yes.
But it's a team sport. That certain things, and that's one of the important thing I try to do. Yeah. Try to create somewhat reflective leaders that they really have a sense of what they're good at and not good at. And it's almost like a simple diagram, 2 by 2. Yeah. Like, don't like, important, not important.
Yes.
So like and not important, some leaders go there. Give it to somebody else. Where you should be, of course, is like and important. And like and not important, go fishing. It's good for your soul. You might be most creative with the ideas. I've written many books, but not sitting by my desk. Walk in the Jardin de Luxembourg, things like that. And what I'm saying is, it's important that they have some sense of what they're good at, not good at, and so try to compensate for that. But unfortunately, we have a tendency to project our fantasies on leaders. We idealize it, and we always are disappointed. And particularly because you need to be somewhat narcissistic to be a leader, usually. You all need some narcissism.
Yes.
But the moment you have the job, you might suffer from hubris, another nice Greek word meaning to be full of yourself.
Arrogance and
Arrogance,
pride.
yeah. And you saw with Biden. There he was a transitional president, and then he got a job, and suddenly he couldn't let go. That's the problem. You see it all the time, the succession dramas of people
Yes. But that you said something very interesting. A bit of narcissism could be helpful. Michael Maccabee, you might remember, talked about productive narcissists. And this idea that if you want leadership...
I talked about constructive narcissists.
Oh, yes, as well. You both did.
He said something else. He took that not the term.
But you better have something about you that believes that you have something to offer, that you have something special if you're going for this competitive leadership role.
But you have constructive and destructive narcissism. So you have sometimes also what's the worst form is malignant narcissism. And unfortunately, when you look around in the world, there are quite a few political leaders, particularly. Of course, the kind of this cross between psychopathy and narcissism, and certain industries have more of psychopathy. Of course, you don't recognize it necessarily. The one who recognize it, they're very good in managing upward, and downward, they notice it.
The charm of the psychopath, the lack of empathy.
Yeah.
Does this start very young with people? Is it life experience, parenting?
And we don't really know too much about it. Of course, I think with compensatory parenting, you can do something. So that's hopefully, but a real psychopath, by the time you get them, and there's a famous hair test. When you pass that test, you lock yourself up and throw the key away because they're so seductive. They will seduce psychotherapists, but that's the problem with them. And by the way, certain industries have more of it. You go to the financial industries. There, it's really more prevalent. Of course, also the greed factor takes over.
Yes.
Don't look so surprised. You know that.
Well,
you know that.
the cutthroat instinct.
But I mean, what I'm talking about is some people talk about the kind of the dark triad. I talk about the dark diet, which is really this narcissism, they into use also Machiavellianism, but
Yes.
it's part of psychopathology.
Yes.
It's so the psychopath and the narcissism, that's a terrible combination because they're so vindictive, apart from you said already very appropriately,
Yes.
they have no feelings of shame, guilt and things like that.
Yes.
You stab somebody and they forget about it. Good.
How can we get people use this word pipeline as if it was oil or something, but how can we get this future leadership to change this, better leaders that come into organizations and want to lead? Is it possible?
You take my course, but unfortunately, I won't limit it. No, I have a fantasy. I didn't run this course for so long.
Yeah.
I took 21 person,
Yeah.
and usually responds for 100,000 people. So my fantasy was, if I can make them a little bit humane,
Yes.
and maybe it has a trickle effect to the rest of the organization.
Right.
But unfortunately, I never got many politicians, by the way, and those are the people who often make some major decisions.
Yes.
But it really has to do with, a certain amount of education. And
Yep.
I was just doing a workshop in Istanbul, and people talk about, I want to be a better leader, I want to have a better team, I want a culture change. But in the end, it has to do. Try to think about meaning. How do you want to be remembered? What do you want as a
Yes.
legacy? That's
Yes.
quite important.
Yes.
And it has to do with helping people to take the two major decisions in life. And of course, you know the two major decisions are, don't you?
A life partner?
Yes,
Yes.
very good.
Yes. And where to live?
No. The second one is what job you want.
Oh,
to have.
okay.
The two, and we make bad mistakes in that very often. We're not very good in it. I mean, I was giving a talk to my first university, and I look at the auditorium, and I look around and think about my own cohort. So many had made such terrible decisions about partner and
yes,
career.
yes.
So the element, if you have some reflective sense, and as you know, Thales of Miletus, a famous sage of the ancient Greece, was asked what is the most difficult thing in the world. And of course you know what it is.
No, you tell me.
Know thyself.
Okay.
It's also the temple of Apollo.
Oh,
So
the
it's not easy.
Yes.
It's not easy. So
Yeah.
what I try to do is a little bit help people to have a better, more greater self-awareness and self-knowledge. So that's. But the one who really need it, don't come.
They're not aware of their
Not aware,
weaknesses.
no.
Or there is shamelessness.
Now they come usually when you talk about narcissists.
Yeah.
They usually come when the first narcissistic injury comes. When you are pretty, wealthy,
Yeah.
and powerful. No, but when you are midlife, you look in the mirror, you see you losing your hair, wrinkles,
Yes.
glasses,
Yeah.
and then of course your wife. It's a man. It's usually a man, by the way. Most men more
Yeah.
narcissistic. The
Yes.
wife quits, and the children hate you.
Yes.
And then you start to think maybe there is something not right. And then maybe you think maybe I should make some life changes.
So this would be a classic midlife.
Yeah, but I mean,
phase.
I'm a strong believer in or in team coaching because I mean I've been one of the great advocates of team coaching.
Yeah.
But you have a bigger chance, and there's a famous statement: when one person tells you have ears like a donkey, ignore it. But if 12 people tell you so, get yourself a saddle.
Yeah.
And so when you have a group of people, a group of narcissists together,
Yeah.
and one behaves too narcissistically,
Yes.
it's very well possible the other one say, "Could you shut up?" and things like that. I don't have to say anything. Of course, I want to say it, but I keep my mouth shut. But they say it during lunchtime. They say, "There you go again. You don't listen."
Even though sometimes these people themselves are not the world champions of listening.
No,
But they spot it in someone else.
12 people tell the same story.
I see.
After a while, they get
I
it.
see. Yeah,
Particularly when they're peers. The
Yes.
subordinates, of course, you get into an echo chamber.
Yes,
You want some good feedback, and people who don't give you good feedback, that's the problem of hubris.
Yes.
You fire them.
Yes.
No, you want to hear, yes, you're fantastic. What a great meeting that you run today again, and what a great vision you have.
But as you pointed out, in antiquity, 2,500 years ago, wise people actually knew this. In fact, didn't Julius Caesar have someone next to him saying memento mori?
You're human,
mortal,
Caesar.
yes.
You're mortal, Caesar.
Yes. But not many CEOs actually welcome
They need
someone
more,
like that.
They need more insultants.
Insultants.
More insultants. I'm an insultant.
Not a
And
consultant.
not a hungry consultant, because too many. I mean, I've trained so many consultants. I mean, too many of them.
Yeah.
But too many are too hungry. They want a new job, instead of saying, "Listen, you're full of shit." I mean, that's what you have to say at times. I mean, you can say it in a nicer way. I mean, what I do is I try to get executives to giggle a little bit. There's a lot of humor.
Yeah.
But then I shove it to them.
I see.
When
their guard is down.
Yeah, no. Yeah, my statement is strike when the iron is cold. Because you have to time it well.
Okay.
You have to be quite careful about it. And of course, you need, I'm also a psychoanalyst.
Yeah.
You have to build a rapport, so some kind of working alliance. Otherwise, they don't hear it.
But you said something interesting. You touched on it, that the financial incentives, the structure, and the career path seems to be, well, it's the context, but it seems to play a part in encouraging some of the bad behavior. Is that
I mean, I interviewed so many bankers. I worked in many banks, and a typical story is, there's quite some hardship at home. That's one typical story.
Yeah,
and so the element never poor again, and it goes beyond everything. So money is really, but after a while, I was recently also having an interview with, not an interview, I was discussing a person about what to do with his money, because he became extremely wealthy. And so I was telling him that not a good idea to give it to your children. Just give your children good education, maybe a house, and maybe a little bit of money. But when you have such a fortune, do it for something else. And basically, I wrote a little book once called Quo Vadis. Not very original. It's from biblical, from
there's a movie.
Jesus and Petrus and crucifixion, whatever.
Where are you going?
Where you're going.
Yeah.
But when I was talking to those executives, in the end, you have a number of pillars. One is, what are you really good at? You're a journalist, so you can write and you can interview people. Yes. You can listen quite carefully and ask nasty questions.
Yes, very one.
Yeah, that's your talent.
Thank you.
Other people have athletic, very good with your body. Other ones music, whatever.
Yeah.
So that gives you some pleasure. So you get some energy from that. The second thing has to do with you feel you have a purpose in life. Maybe as a journalist you want to get. I want to create better organizations, because I think 23% of the world thinks they're not engaged. 23% are engaged.
Yeah, only.
It's an
minority.
More than 70% are not engaged. So I want to. That's my purpose. Then you have other things, which, as you know, the famous. I already asked you the question: what is the most difficult decision you have to make? It has to do with partner and career, but the other one is belonging. To the most important thing in life, which I try to tell them, is good relationship with family and friends. That makes for a better life and a longer life. And then the final part of this particular equation is, when I talk to this gentleman who is a billionaire, it's transcendence. So what are you going to do with your fortune? And can you do something for the common good? Giving is better than taking. It's good for your mental health, by the way, in general. Of course, you need a minimum amount of money. Being completely, too much empathy is also not good. So that's the and inside that package is meaning. And so we and realize that we always have this kind of the kind of silent motivator running around, the stealth motivator, which is death. And all the activities you do here, and many people in organizations, I said, why you work so hard? I guess he doesn't know anything else, because he gets depressed otherwise.
Manfred, we're out of time, but on that important message, thanks very much for being with us.